Paula Pant, the host of the Afford Anything podcast, likes to answer questions her listeners send in. This is a special episode where she also has Joe Saul-Sehy from the Stacking Benjamins show join in the fun.
Hi, Paula. My name is Shelbi, and I've been listening to your podcast for about 2 or 3 months now. My question kind of has a lot of components, so I'll do my best to explain it. I'll start by saying that after taxes and insurance, my monthly income is $2,600, and my monthly costs for living are $1,900. I recently graduated from grad school, and I'm 26, and I'm in the first step of my career, which I'll be able to work toward making more money as I gain more experience. After listening to your podcast, I've been able to set up an emergency fund, which currently has $5,500 in it. Through my work, I am currently contributing 20% to a 403b Vanguard Target Retirement account, and I'm doing this through a Roth contribution. My employer offers an employer match after 2 years of working for the company. I currently do not qualify for this as I am still within my first year. Because of my high deductible insurance plan through my employer, they offer an H.S.A. where they contribute $100 per month into my account. I am not currently contributing more than that. My only debt is my student loans, which totals $49,000, and this is coming from the government, so it's 6.8% interest. I'm currently paying more than the minimum payment, and I pay $400 a month, which is included in my $1,900 of cost of living monthly. I do not currently have a Roth IRA, and my ultimate goal is early retirement and financial independence. I'm wondering what is the next step and what do I need to do to be most effective with the money that I have. After reading your recent email about investing the geeky way, I saw that number 1 was to get an employer match, and number 2 was to invest in a Roth IRA. So I'm seeing that this is something that I need to do soon, and that I know maxing it out, being under 49 years old, would be $5,500. I also see that step 3 is to max out your H.S.A. So I'm not doing either of those things right now, but I'm wondering, do I lower my 20% that I'm putting toward my 403b in order to be able to max out the other 2? Or what is the best option? I'm also wondering how my student loans play into all of this, as it is a huge chunk of money that I still owe. And I'm not sure if it's important to be putting those in priority over the investment options that I've talked about on here. My last question is that I have a lot more to talk with you about, and I'm wondering, with the little money I make, is it worth the investment to talk further about these topics and others through calling you through your online services that you offer through Afford Anything? Thanks for everything you do, and I look forward to hearing back from you. Bye.
I love this question. So first, just for the sake of everybody who's listening, I'm going to briefly recap everything that Shelbi said, just briefly recap the situation. So she makes a take-home income of $2,600 per month, and $1,900 of that is her monthly cost of living, which means that there is a gap of an additional $700 in between cost of living and monthly income. She's got a $5,500 emergency fund. She's contributing 20% of her income into a Vanguard Target Retirement account. It's a Roth contribution into a 403b. After a year from now, she'll qualify for an employer match, and the employer currently contributes $100 a month into an H.S.A. account. She currently has $49,000 in student loan debt at a 6.8% interest rate and is paying $400 a month towards it, which is more than the minimum required. That $400 a month is included in that $1,900 cost of living figure. And so questions include, number 1, should she lower her retirement contributions? Should she lower her 20% contribution into her 403b in order to max out a Roth IRA and H.S.A.? That's question number 1. Question number 2, should she prioritize repayment of her student loan debt over retirement savings? And then question number 3, should she schedule a call with me? Joe, I'm going to send this one to you first. What do you think? I know exactly what I'm going to say, but gentlemen first.
Well, I think the answer to this question all revolves around the 403B and her ability to remove funds. And that's going to depend on actually the employer. So she needs to make sure with her employer that she can get the money back. The reason I say that, Paula, is that when you invest in a Roth, 403B Roth versus an IRA Roth, sure, we're going to compare investment opportunities. We're going to compare costs. But let's say that those are the same. If they're the same, why open up another account so you have a whole nother page on your dashboard when you don't need to? So the key for me is in a regular Roth IRA, you're allowed to take the principal out without penalty.
Yep.
The money that the Roth earns has some hangups, has some restrictions. So we don't want to mess with that. But I do want to make sure that she has as much flexibility as possible. If the 403B, all other things being equal, if the 403B Roth gives her that flexibility, don't open up another account because it's just one more thing to try to keep track of. If it doesn't and the employer has some hangups, well, then certainly I think she should open the Roth.
I mean, so I agree with you. My simpler answer to that question, and I guess I'm saying this in part for the sake of all the listeners, is that generally speaking, and again, this is a broad generalization, but generally speaking, if you open up a Roth IRA, as assuming that you income qualify, which this caller does, you will have two advantages. One is that the Roth IRA, you will be able, like Joe, like you said, you'll be able to withdraw the principal contribution from the Roth IRA penalty-free. You should absolutely make it a goal to never touch that money, but it is nice to know that it's there if, poop hits the fan and you need it. So that's one advantage. The other advantage is that you can choose your brokerage. So if you open it up at Vanguard or Schwab or Fidelity, any of the low-cost brokers, you just have a greater likelihood of being able to invest that money in low-fee index funds in the places where you want to put it. Whereas with a 403B that's sponsored by your employer, who knows what broker you're using? Who knows what investments you have access to?
Yeah, but she'll know.
Yeah, she will know, absolutely. But generally speaking, the reason that I recommend prioritizing a Roth IRA over a 401k or 403b after you get the employer match is for those two reasons. It's for the option of principal withdrawal and for the flexibility of being able to choose your brokerage and choose your investments.
Right.
As far as so basically, I guess the TLDR of that is, Shelbi, you can look at your plan and see, where your 403b is kept, what options you have. But if Vanguard is a sexier option, I would just go with them. I would just open a Roth IRA and go with them. And as long as you're contributing 20% total to retirement savings, assuming that your goal is to continue contributing 20% total, I know that's one of your questions, but assuming that you decide to continue to contribute 20% towards retirement savings, you can split that between your 403b and your Roth IRA in whatever way makes the most sense. And that way will be determined by the employer match that you get a year from now. So...
Am I supposed to say something there?
Da 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 da.
Yeah, ta-da!
Jazz hands. And then as far as the H.S.A. goes, one of the keys to using your H.S.A. as a proxy for a retirement account is to make sure that you have your H.S.A. money stored in the type of financial institution that will allow you to invest it. So if your H.S.A. money is just sitting in cash and you can't invest it, that sucks. But if your H.S.A. is at a financial institution that allows you to buy broad market index funds, then hey, party on. So mine, for example, and again, I don't know what financial institutions you're using, Shelbi, but I have an account with H.S.A. Bank, and H.S.A. Bank links to, they give you a couple of options. I chose TD Ameritrade. Unfortunately, Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity are not among those options. So my H.S.A. Bank account links to TD Ameritrade, and so all the money that I put in my H.S.A., I immediately send over to TD Ameritrade. And then from inside of there, I buy the lowest fee broad market ETF. And then that's where my HSA money sits, and I don't touch it. So I never spend HSA money on health-related spending. I just use it as a proxy for an additional retirement account. But I know, again, like in the same way that I can tap the principal on a Roth IRA contribution, I know that if I ever did need to tap that money, I could withdraw that money penalty-free as long as I have health-related receipts that can support that. So basically, I've just got a big folder in Dropbox that's like health-related receipts. And I know that if I ever need to withdraw money from the H.S.A., I can just check that folder, see what those total up to, and that's what I've got access to. And hopefully I'll never have to do
and
that.
Then a party down at the Sizzler.
Dude.
Right.
Sizzler. So Joe, what about her second question, Shelby's second question is, should she prioritize repaying student loan debt over retirement savings? Now, as you recall, she's got student loans of $49,000, government loans at a 6.8% interest rate, and she is currently paying $400 a month towards those loans.
Well, the key for me is always a couple things. It's cash flow and interest rate. So a lot of people will go for interest rate first. Mm-hmm. I like looking at cash flow. So in other words, if I've got a little debt hanging around and I can make one payment to avoid the next 4 or 5 months worth of payments and I capture that cash flow right away, I'm going to do that. Especially if cash flow is a problem in my family. But assuming that it isn't, then I just go to the interest rate. And 6.8%, Paula, as you know, is like a 6.8% return on investment. So I like that. What I like doing first is projecting some type of a worst case scenario. When is the time that I might see myself needing to be financially independent? So maybe 65. And if I project it just
her goal is early retirement.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even look at that.
Okay.
I would just look at putting away for a normal retirement. Am I already putting enough away to get that normal retirement? Because I think paying off the student loans will help her toward the early retirement, right? She'll get cash flow. She'll eliminate that 6.8%. So I'm going with the student loans as long as she's putting away enough to get a normal retirement.
Yeah, Joe, you and I, the last time that you were on the show, we talked about risk premium. And that is what strikes me when she's asking about money that she invests in a broad market index fund versus that 6.8% interest rate. In a broad market index fund, over a long-term aggregate average, she can expect to get maybe 7, 8, 9, 10%, somewhere in that arena, depending on, how long of a time period we're talking about, et cetera, depending on a variety of assumptions. Given the fact that the interest rate on her student loans is effectively 7%, just shy of 7%, and there she may get some minor tax advantage, some minor tax benefits that lowers her effective interest rate, but I mean basically she's paying, we'll say 6 to 7% on those student loans. The risk premium doesn't justify going heavy into market investments. That's basically a really long and complicated way of saying at that interest rate, it makes more sense to pay off student loans. Again, I'm agreeing with you, Joe. Cash flow is important, and that's another reason that I'm such a fan of Roth IRAs in particular, is because the money that she puts into a Roth IRA, that initial principal contribution is effectively a secondary emergency fund. So she's already got a $5,500 emergency fund. That principal contribution into a retirement account is a sort of a secondary emergency fund for like really, really black swan, worst case events. And so that is a big part of the argument for her prioritizing putting money into a Roth IRA or some other retirement account where she still has access to that initial principal contribution. And once she does that, sufficiently enough that she has, sizable enough cash cushion that she can fall back on in the event that everything goes to hell in a handbasket. And I think she's close because her cost of living is less than $2,000 a month. Her emergency fund is already $5,500. So she's already got an emergency fund that is almost 3 months worth of living expenses. Do that one more time, max out a Roth IRA for one more year with another $5,500. Boom. Now you've got 6 months worth of living expenses, sort of, kind of. I mean, that's funny math, really. That's sort of a different conversation of how to conceptualize emergency funds principle. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that road. But once she does that, then she's got the liquidity. She's got the access to capital, and then it makes sense to really get aggressive on the student loans.
There is another road while we're talking about risk premium. She could look into refinancing the student loans if she really wanted to invest that money. That'll make the risk premium lower. So if she can find a place where maybe she gets those down to, somewhere in the 4s, then by all means, then that changes our answer to that discussion too.
Yeah, absolutely. Shelbi, the final question that you asked is whether or not you should schedule a call with me. So for the sake of everybody who's listening, who's wondering what that's in reference to, one thing that I do is, like, I have this blog, I have this podcast, I take listener questions every other week. If anybody wants individualized, personalized attention above and beyond that, like half an hour or an hour of just personalized attention, I do also have this service page, whatever you'd call it, where I schedule calls with people. But I charge a high rate on that because effectively the income that I make from that helps me keep 99% of my content free. And so the income that I make from those private coaching calls allows me to do the rest of this for free. Honestly, given the income that you make, I would not feel right about that. I really wouldn't. I think that you should prioritize paying off your debt and putting money towards retirement. I don't think that you should schedule a call with me because you make $2,600 per month and you have almost $50,000 in student loan debt. And I just wouldn't feel right about that.
See, Shelbi, I've got a different answer than Paula has, which is if you really, really want that call, you have to learn negotiation, Shelbi. So here's what you do. You reply to Paula when she says, well, I don't think that this would be a great use of funds. Instead, pay her in double stuffed Oreos and bacon, and Paula will be all over it. I mean, then you got her.
Oh, man.
You can't say no, Paula. I know you won't say no.
But that being said, Joe, you and I have now spent 20 minutes talking about Shelbi's question?
Yeah.
I guess part of the reason that I host these Ask Paula episodes is so that it's exactly for these types of situations where if you have a question and you want personalized, individualized attention on that question, I will happily spend 20 minutes for free discussing the answer to your question and giving you personalized feedback along with Joe. Yeah, as long as I can record it and then broadcast it to the entire community so that everybody in the community benefits. So that's a big part of why I started these Ask Paula episodes, is because I was just getting all of these questions that were coming in through email and through, it was overwhelming and I didn't want to ignore them, but I didn't have time to answer every individual question. So,
So here you are.
Yeah, these episodes they allow you, Shelbi, to get that individualized attention while simultaneously allowing the entire community to benefit from the answer. So that seemed to me to be the best solution, like the win for all parties, a win for the broad audience, a win for you, and something manageable that I could incorporate into my life.
And I benefit too from the bacon talk.
Yeah.
#winning. Right.
But yeah, I am not afraid to give advice that is counter to my own interests. And frankly, I don't think that you should pay me. I think that you should focus on, I think you're doing a great job, and you should focus on building your emergency fund, investing for retirement, and paying off the student loans. I would rather see your money go to that.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, did you enjoy this excerpt from the Afford Anything podcast? Then click to download our free ebook, Escape. You'll be taken to a page where you can enter your email for immediate access to everything you need to know about escaping the 9-to-5 grind to live life on your terms. And you can also subscribe with one simple click to get alerted when new videos are uploaded.